The United Nations top court has issued a strong ruling on Israel's conduct of its war in Gaza. The International Court of Justice ordered Israel to immediately halt its military operations in the southern Gaza city of Rafah, further increasing international pressure on Israel over its war against Hamas. Well, in a case brought by South Africa accusing Israel of genocide, the latest decision marks the third time this year that the 15-judge panel has issued initial orders seeking to rein in the death toll and also reduce humanitarian suffering in Gaza.
The court considers that, in conformity with its obligations under the Genocide Convention, Israel must immediately halt its military offensive and any other action in the Rafah governorate which may inflict on the Palestinian group in Gaza conditions of life that could bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part.
The ICJ has ordered Israel to open the Rafah border crossing for humanitarian assistance. It has said that to preserve evidence, Israel must allow investigators access to Gaza. The judges added that Israel must submit a report on all measures to implement the court's order within 1 month. Reading out the ruling, the ICJ court president said the fears expressed earlier this year about an operation in Rafah, they have materialized. He says the destruction of the city will further intensify if Israel continues with its operation. The judges said that they are not convinced by the evacuation efforts and measures that Israel affirms to have undertaken to enhance security of civilians in Gaza Strip. The ruling, however, did not call for a full ceasefire throughout Gaza, as South Africa, which has historic ties to the Palestinian people, requested last week. Pretoria, however, welcomed the order and urged UN member states to back it as well. Hamas has also welcomed the order, but the militant group says it expected the decision will be for the entire Gaza Strip. The Palestinian ambassador to the UN hailed the decision as he stressed that resolutions of the ICJ should be implemented without hesitation and Israel should abide by the ruling immediately.
I hope that an actual ceasefire will occur and that Israel will respond to the resolution, because Israel does not care about anyone, whether it is the Court of Justice or any other countries, despite the fact that most countries have turned against it. Even Netanyahu said that neither a court of justice nor anyone else can stop the war on Gaza.
Saudi Arabia also welcomed the decision by the World Court. The Gulf Kingdom says the decision is a positive step towards the moral and legal right of the Palestinian people. But they have called the decision to be extended for the rest of the Palestinian territory as well. Lebanon's Iran-backed group Hezbollah has accused Israel of disrespecting the international resolutions. On the other hand, Israel has condemned the ICJ's ruling. War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz said that the decision is an abject moral failure, as the court failed to order the release of hostages and did not acknowledge Israel's right to defend itself against terror. Reports are also emerging that Israel's ally, the US and the UK, will reject the decision, after slowly blurring their red lines that once stated that they could not support a military offensive in Rafah. Now, shortly after the ICJ ruling, residents of Gaza and Palestinian media reported that a series of Israeli airstrikes hitting roads and homes in the Shabora neighborhood of central Rafah. And for more on this, we're now being joined by Stephen Golub, who is a lawyer and a political analyst. And Mr. Golub is joining us live from California. Welcome to the show, Mr. Golub. I want to first start by asking that the ICJ has ruled that Israel must immediately halt its military operations and other actions in Rafah, and has also asked Hamas to release the hostages. How significant is the ruling and what do you make of it?
It's significant in that it indicates Israel's increasing international isolation in terms of diplomacy, in terms of legalities, in terms of politics, in terms of geostrategic considerations. It will not make a difference, as we're seeing, in terms of Israel's conduct of the war in Gaza, and specifically regarding Rafah. The government and the population of Israel feel that they should go full speed ahead with those attacks. In terms of the legal substance of the ruling, I'm of two minds. Well, really, I'm of 10 minds, but I'll try to keep them to just two. On the one hand, yes, there are valid humanitarian considerations to try to mandate that Israel take better care to protect the Palestinian population of Rafah in particular and Gaza more generally, including not just regarding military matters, but food delivery and the like. On the other hand, I think you can understand, or it's possible to understand, that Israel, having been attacked in a particularly brutal, barbaric way by Hamas, and Hamas still vowing to destroy Israel and to attack again if it ever gets the chance, Israel feels compelled to go after Hamas, which is hiding behind or really below, in terms of tunnels, below the civilian population. So it's a very difficult situation in terms of both the legalities and the morality of it. But I can understand the ICJ stepping in. There's one more caveat I want to attach to this, that from Israel's point of view, and I think this is a somewhat valid argument, this is a bit unusual or somewhat unusual for the ICJ to take action regarding this type of situation, given the other humanitarian and human rights situations going on around the world, regarding which it has not taken action. But in an absolute sense, again, this is an extreme situation we're seeing in Gaza.
Right. Mr. Golub, 8 months into the Gaza war, and Israel has still not achieved its two goals, that is to eliminate Hamas and to bring back hostages. You speak of how this is an extreme situation and the ICJ has not taken any other steps in such an extreme manner in any other nation. But do you still think that Israel is being singled out as it flouts the World Court order repeatedly by not providing basic requirements to the Palestinians in Gaza?
You know, I think it's being singled out, but I'm not saying it's wrong that it's being singled out. In that the ICJ is using its influence, using its legal mandate to try to afford better protection to a really drastic human rights and humanitarian situation. So again, I'm afraid to say I'm of two minds about this, but I can understand Israel's point of view in terms of it feeling singled out, but the ICJ's point of view in terms of making this ruling.
Right, Mr. Golub, also talk to us about how this ruling has put the U.S. In a conundrum, as Washington is stuck in terms of whether and how much to support Israel as the humanitarian crisis increases in Gaza.
Yeah, the U.S. and the Biden administration in particular is stuck between a rock and a hard place in terms of wanting Israel to restrain its conduct and having issued warnings to Israel to do so. But on the other and having political imperatives in terms of losing some votes in the November election of President Biden versus Mr. Trump if Israel continues along this path. But on the other hand, strong political arguments and strong political forces in the U.S. wanting the Biden administration to support Israel wholeheartedly. So it is, as you quite rightly said, a conundrum, both in terms of strategy and in terms of policy, and for the Biden administration, for President Biden in particular, the politics of this. This could hurt his re-election efforts.
Mr. Golub, just a final word on genocide, because today's ruling is a part of a broader lawsuit brought by South Africa last year, accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza. Explain to us what impact will the World Court ruling have on that?
It's a step towards a possible ruling regarding genocide. Personally, I feel that such a ruling would be unfair, unjust, and not legally accurate in that Israel has not taken steps to wipe out the Palestinian population as a whole, or deliberately in a significant regard, notwithstanding the massive losses of civilian life in Gaza that has that has taken place. So I think genocide would be a step too far, even if we do want to justify what the ICJ's rulings in other regards. On the other hand, we also have to keep in mind that there are persons within the Israeli government, two leading cabinet ministers in particular, who have made noises, who are supported by forces, who are advocating really the expulsion of Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza. And that, again, may not be genocide, but that is really quite a violation of international law and any sense of morality.
Well, Mr. Gaurav, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on WION with your insights on this historic ICJ ruling.